I am here with Rhowena Adolfo Patel. She is a first-time mom, CEO, and founder of Healing Mama Co. And she recognized a lack of care and support for childbirth and postpartum. This led her to find ways to raise the standard of care that pregnant mamas and partners receive. She has backpacked through 58 countries, accompanied by her infant in 7, which paved the path to revolutionizing the childbirth industry. Rowena brings vast experience in the world of business, finance, and entrepreneurship. So buckle up for some real talk about birth and our bodies. And I know, Rowena, you're going to give it to us. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Chanda. I'm excited to have this conversation. As you said, just buckle up, get ready, because it's going to be fun. We're going to talk about all the things, and hopefully everyone who listens and watches is going to get some really useful tips and information, insight, maybe open perspectives. And let's just dive. Let's do it, Sean.
Totally.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
Yeah. Right back at you. So let's talk about the postpartum body. So what are some physical changes that we don't often learn about, hear about until afterwards? And then we're like, why did no one tell me about this? What are those?
All the things, right? And, for context, when I became a first-time mom and when you became a first-time mom, different generations, different time, and still the same, if we can put it out there, shit was still happening. And so when I went through it, and this is back in 2018, it very much gave me this slap in the face of, holy F, how come my beautiful midwives didn't prepare me for this?
Right.
How come our friends who have had kids before us didn't prepare us for this, except for the one girlfriend that kind of sparked the whole idea of Healing Mama Co. and our medically backed labor and postpartum. And so what we need to be able to be very comfortable having conversations with is the reality of what actually happens. And like you said, let's just keep it on a physical level first. Let's just keep it to what happens here on the physical level before we dig any deeper. And so physically, 9 months, we've been, for most of us, again, birth and pregnancy are going to happen when it happens. But for the majority of birthing people, it's 9 months that our bodies have transformed and expanded so that this human that's growing inside of us can be at its best possible size, weight, and all of that when it joins us earthbound. Okay. Now, after this baby has exited our beautiful bodies, there is an entire healing process that occurs that is not a part of the primary medical care system in maternal health. It's not a part of it. And not to dig deep about that, but it just really shows how vast and deep the patriarchy lives in our healthcare system. So knowing that, a company like Healing Mama Co. needs to be here because the care of our generations today rely heavily on the care that mothers and birthing people are receiving. So when we give birth, what it's actually called is the trauma of birth. Medically, this is what it is called. And with any trauma, you and I, like if you've ever broken an arm, sprained an ankle, had a cut, like there trauma, okay, this is what you need to buy. Here's your first aid kit, your list of care, all of that stuff. Do we have that after we give birth? Not exactly. And medically, we've gone through a trauma, not speaking on a intellectual level, mental level, anything like that. I'm talking physical trauma. Okay. So we've gone through a physical trauma called trauma of birth. Now we have to heal. So what happens to our bodies? Our bodies are larger than before we had our babies, and we've just given birth, and we are still holding that. And so for that first initial period, we are still in our pregnancy-ish body, but now with the baby, are holding our baby out here earthbound, and we still have this body. And so what happens is our bodies are still holding this fluid that it used to help grow and nourish our beautiful babies that we now get to hold in our hands. And so that has to flow out of us. And that can come in different forms. Here's all the fun stuff. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So postpartum sweats. Have we had this conversation before? Anyone tell you, mamas, if you're gonna sweat in the night, feels like all day long, and you're like, what is happening? It's, it's a part of that fluid being released out of your system. And this all comes from our hormones. Our hormones is what did all of this magic to get our bodies ready. A part of our hormones is also with this flush of fluid, that beautiful body smell. Have you ever Shonda, do you remember having experienced, oh, that's a new odor?
I don't, I probably all mixed in with the baby meconium and poop and, all of it together.
In those first, it's like you smell, I smell, we smell together.
Yeah.
It's just a part of the process. And also, let me mention this as well. When our babies join us earthbound, they've never smelled. They've never used this sense before. And they don't want to smell anything but this body odor. Like they just want to suck up all of it. Right? So just we recommend, and medically, this is what practitioners who have these conversations with their patients will recommend, is be unscented. Everything in our labor and postpartum bags is 100% unscented. At least, if you can give yourself 4 weeks, unscented shampoo, unscented moisturizer, unscented lotion, unscented detergent, everything, so that all baby smells is you and your partner's body odor in all of its glory. Okay. Swollen feet might be happening. We might still have swollen hands. We're big. So let's just let the hormones flush through our bodies. So physically that's happening. Then we go into this beautiful head of hair that was so luscious because again, those influx of hormones came in, and there are moms who don't get that luscious hair, but for the vast majority of pregnant people, luscious hair, hormones, man, I am back to my teenage days. This is just amazing. Baby is out again with the hormone flush. Hair starts coming out. Your baby hairs are like this small now. It's like, oh my goodness. What is happening with all of this, right? And so it's a matter of being prepared for the different stages of postpartum healing and recovery, because that's what it is. You're going through a healing and recovery, like any other major surgery, any other major trauma that requires healing. You are physically going through it. I'm also going to premise this by saying the difference is with all of those major surgeries is those were involuntary. Birth is considered voluntary. You go through any insurance contract. Again, I came from a finance background. Birth is considered voluntary. So, which is why it's not necessarily always covered with travel insurance, because it's a voluntary condition. Okay. So another reason why maybe this post-care isn't a part of the mainstream of what we need to be getting in maternal health. So with all of this, we've talked about hair, we've talked about our body maybe being bigger, flushing the liquids out, sweat, smell, maybe still a little bit swollen. If we have our babies in the summertime, I mean, we're taking weather into consideration, that as well. And we also have to consider the physical healing. I haven't even talked about that. If you had a vaginal birth, one, congratulations to you, mama, you did it. Okay. The vaginal healing is a very tough, sensitive time for any person who's just given birth, whether you had tearing or not, whether you had 4th degree stitching or just a little bit of stretching. I mean, either way, it is a sensitive, delicate time for your beautiful vajayjay. Like we literally created one bundle that's just called vajayjay cleansing and healing because of the amount of support that beautiful vajayjays need. Yeah. It's not just, okay, we're just gonna water it down there and then let it heal on its own. I mean, when your kid gets a cut, you get poly, you clean it with hydrogen peroxide, put some poly on there, put a band-aid, like you do stuff. But JJ needs the exact same type of care, except we're not putting polysporin down there. We're not going to spray down there. We're not going to do that. We're going to follow the protocol to heal down there. And so our vaginas are going through a whole renovation down there. It's been demolished. And now it's being renovated back up to its beautiful new state that it's going to be. The idea of going back into pre-baby body, losing baby fat. It's not about losing anything. It's only about growing into our new bodies,
yes.
our newness. Because who we are as mothers, as parents, is spiritually, transformatively brand new than what we were before we gave birth. Like,
yes.
It's a 1 second difference. Baby's still inside, baby's not outside. Completely transformed human being. And whether we have the ability to fully be aware of that, it happens. And for some, we get it right away. And for others, it takes time, sometimes years, to really recognize that transformation.
Right.
So, we're going to get into that. So physically, we've gotten that. We may have had hemorrhoids, and it may be painful to sit down because we need to sit up and breastfeed and eat and do the things that we need to do. So it's finding the ways to heal our down there, not just the vagina. If we did, it's common for moms to get hemorrhoids. Ideally, we avoid that, but that takes techniques. It's being aware of how to do that during birth. Our cesarean mamas, the post-surgical care is just as vast as a vaginal birth, but it's different. You're not dealing with all the things that we have to do for vaginal care. We as cesarean mamas have to now look at incision care. We're going to be immobile from the waist down for a period of time. And it's the time where you want to be able to have your baby and walk with the baby and do all that. And you're confined to being able to just do the things you can do a few walks and then take your rest, and being able to do proper incision healing. How many mamas have shared with us that I had to go to the doctor in a few weeks because it became infected? It's like, how come no one taught you how to care for that?
Right.
And we had to put an entire cesarean care section in our Healing Mama guides that come with our bags, because it's not a standard practice to go home with a piece of paper that says this is how you're going to care for your wound on your belly.
Right.
And some mamas' wounds or cuts are much more major than others. And so you really need that protocol to understand when to do this. If you notice this, go to the emergency room. What smells do I want to look for? What colors, what odors, what secretions am I looking for or watching out for? What can I do to heal the incision so it doesn't become a keloid? What are some practices I can do at home? All of that stuff. We've taken the work to be able to give that to you in your hands. No app required. You just go to those pages and follow the instructions. And then we give you the products to be able to do it in the most sensitive way that you can, because for most of us, we're the ones doing the care for ourselves because we want to make sure that we're not hurting ourselves more, or we're going to employ a professional like an osteopath or a registered postpartum massage therapist. These are the professionals you're going to look at. And so we also outline these professionals in our guide, because again, Chanda, no one talks about the list of professionals we want to have in our back pocket.
Right.
To support our postpartum healing. So, oh my God, we can talk more about the body, but that's as quick of an overview as I can get to of different spots physically that we're going to experience this. I'm not talking about, back pain and things like that, how to ergonomically hold our baby so we're not causing more strain while we're recovering. In case we're not going to have that conversation, there's amazing professionals who will do that with you. Lactation consultants are fantastic at sharing tips and ways to hold your baby while you're feeding, if you are feeding through the breast. And also ways to hold baby if you're holding them the bottle. Chiropractors, fantastic tips on how to hold your baby standing, sitting, sideways, how you want to watch your hips when you're holding the baby, and then also rehabbing your body. You're going to want to find these professionals, a pelvic floor physiotherapist, to take care of the inside of your body, because there's a lot of trauma our pelvic floor has gone through.
Yes.
And it needs to be a part of a basic standard of care that you have your either OB or midwife. If you have the budget to get a doula, you get a doula, and you at minimum need to go see a pelvic floor physiotherapist within 6 weeks postpartum. Like, just that needs to be a bare minimum. give one professional shout out, it would be a pelvic floor physiotherapist.
To get an assessment and see what is needed, what's going on, what for you, what you need for your personal care.
Yes, that, and to also adequately heal the pelvic floor, because the pelvic floor can heal on its own, but it may be inadequate, which happens majority of the time. So Shonda, you tell me, you may have noticed some women who are neighbors, friends in early menopause, in menopause, who are, oh, I can't laugh too hard or I'll pee, or I'll sneeze and
Sure.
I'll pee,
Yes,
or
of
hop a little
course.
bit and I'll pee, or when I sit down, my coccyx is still hurting, or, all of this physical occurrences later in life.
Mm,
I can't say 100% because it hasn't been proven yet
right.
fully, but I can almost pinpoint it to inadequately healing from childbirth.
Yeah.
You can see how many decades later that it will manifest in our bodies if we don't take care of it at this very critical time. Like, you're almost able to set yourself up for later ages in life if you are given the proper postpartum healing and recovery. Like, there's this cocoon of time, the first 30 days, if not, we can get it to the first 60 days, that can set you up until your last breath in ways that I can't even begin to mention, because the science is only now catching up to it. It's just like the science that proves the first 2 years of an infant's life, who they are in their mind and their physical development. It's so phenomenal. There's no other time in life where that growth, that development occurs other than those. So if you miss those first 2 years of window, it's very difficult to make up for that. And it's the same for postpartum care. If we miss that first 30 to 60 day window to really heal and nurture our physical bodies, we'll see it later in life. Whether you're prepared to believe this or not, it will show up later in
So
life.
I guess what I'm thinking, you're talking about all of this, and I'm thinking that some of the messages were given. I mean, so on one school of thought or one camp, it's like, obviously inform yourself as much as possible, read everything, almost like we can inundate ourselves and there's too much. But then there's this other camp or, school of thought, which is, well, women have been doing this forever. So it's sort of like, suck it up, buttercup. You're no different. How are you special? You don't need any special care. And so I think, just a caution to know. I always talk about, knowing self-awareness, where we fall on those continuums. So some of us may be on one end or the other. And if you're at the end of, well, why am I special? Everyone's been doing this. Women would be out in the fields and the babies would just plop out and they'd keep picking the whatever was going on. That it's okay. And that, there are some very real scientific reasons, like you're talking about medical reasons and, longevity, just as we're going to eat the proper nutrition for ourselves and all of these other things and exercise. This is one piece of our healthcare going forward that we need to not ignore. And we need to say that just because it hasn't been addressed, talked about, advocated for, doesn't mean it's not vital.
Yes. And to also, again, about perspective, right? We're talking mostly to a North American market. We go into the European birthing systems in different countries, vastly different than what we experience here in North America. I told you I've traveled to 58 countries. Right. Unintentionally, I've learned about different birthing practices in it only because it was in my face. Like, I'm in Guatemala and these mamas have their babies in their back and they're negotiating with me on like bread that they're selling. It's like you get showcased and exposed to all these different areas. Birthing in Asia, very different than birthing here in North America. Right. And so one thing that always exists, coming back to your idea of, well, women have been doing this for centuries, from the beginning of time of human beings. Women have been doing this. You have to consider, back then women lived 20, 30, 40 years. We're in an unprecedented time where we are able to live into our 60, 70, 80, 100 plus years old. And so how do we do that without being stuck in a chair, that we're still living up to these ages fully?
Right.
And also, in all of these methods of giving birth, there is someone there. Like, the person who gave birth in the field does have a midwife. Right. They're not doctors. Like, midwives are real. They've lived in cultures and villages from the beginning of time. They may not have been called midwives. They may have been called something else, but there is a dedicated person to support birth. And whether they're there when you gave birth or after, these people existed. So it just might not be in our realm of knowledge,
right?
That no matter where we are in the ages of humanity, there is a person there trained who support these people, whether it was like a medical license or not, but it's like the elder, the person who knew
exactly.
how to do this
Good point.
was
Yes.
there.
Right.
And so it's also being aware that, yes, we do have to suck it up because that's what our culture tells us to do, but we are not here to perpetuate cultural norms.
Yes.
We are here to revolutionize these unnecessary cultural norms that we know, based on what the rest of the world have also shown us, can be done. Yes. And it's being done over there, but it needs to be done here now. Yes. So it, that spectrum, it's about, let's just open our perspectives and know that we live in a beautiful time and age of amazing comforts, amazing conveniences, and maternal health needs to be a part of that. Yes. That the idea of suffering is unnecessary. Exactly. We're not going to perpetuate this. Right. Being a mother doesn't have to be linked to, I have to suffer through this. Let's just get rid of that conversation. Yes. Yeah, we're going to.
Absolutely. I'm with you. Yes. So let's move on to what else do you want moms to know? Or what else do they say to you when you're talking to all these moms? They wish they knew that they didn't know.
Well, almost everything I mentioned. It's, how come no one told me about seeing a pelvic floor, that I could have gone to an osteopath, especially with my infant who was so colicky, or seen a chiropractor. I didn't even know that there was such a thing called a lactation consultant. There are many professionals out there that we just didn't know that we could go and draw on to be able to get the support we need. The other side of it is all of the products and tools that you need to actually heal. It's that first aid kit, the one that we've literally put together so that you can go into the hospitals or at home or in the car, wherever baby's going to come out. You've got it all with you. And it's about having the proper tools, not just, I'm going to go and get a bag of Depends and I'll get the latest vajayjay peri-wash bottle and a dermaplast and like, yeah, I'm good, I'm going to have this baby. No. Okay. We need to really look at this as healing from the trauma of birth. If we can do any one thing, it would be, I apologize for the dumpster truck that is.
I didn't hear it at all, so you're good.
Perfect. So let's just take this idea that, or the fact that we are going through what's called the trauma of birth. So let's medically prepare for this event, not just based on the latest list that's out there. Let's not just do what the latest trend is. Let's take a look at this from a medical perspective. So what can we do for our vagina care? What can we do to prepare for a possible cesarean? What can we do to support our nutritional health and well-being? And here is one thing that has come up more and more often over this last 2023. And it's a conversation that is very strong in society right now, which is this conversation of mental health. And mental health has always been here. It's just now we have a platform to have these very amplified conversations. And so when we talk about the trauma of birth, what also occurs is after we've given birth, we are in the most nutritive, depleted state, period. Like even a marathoner is not as depleted as somebody who has just given birth. So a marathoner knows in order to nourish their body after a marathon, they have to eat this, they have to drink this, and they have to do it in this regimen. How come no one told that to us?
Women are eating M&Ms while they're breastfeeding, and
it's just like, what can I grab while this thing is here? And I like, how can I?
Yes, exactly.
Okay? So here is a link. Inadequate nutrition, supplements, vitamins, care, nutritious care is linked to maternal negative mental health. Baby is starting at 1,000% of life in them. They're here, they're ready, and you are at negative 100.
Yes, right.
So depleted.
Right.
And our baby's here, we're here. We just need to meet our baby at balance. And in order to do that, in order to give us the proper foundation so that we don't fall into the black hole of postpartum anxiety and postpartum depression. And the worst is postpartum psychosis. We need to be able to look at our nutrition, our supplemental care, our vitamin care, all of our hydrating care as a part of our healing regimen. And a lot of the women that we've had an opportunity to have conversations with, when they ask me, I went through this postpartum depression and this is what I was recommended, I always ask, so what was your nutrition at that time? Like what you said, not M&Ms necessarily, but
right. Extreme
if
a little bit, but yeah, but it's grabbing what I can, right? Or whatever somebody dropped at the front door if I'm lucky enough.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so, it becomes very obvious at that point. It's like, it's not surprising that you experienced this because you were operating from down, like I can't even get that low on the screen, and no one was supporting you to get to here so that you didn't have to reach this.
Right.
And so we're advocating for that, like healing is a part of your food and your nutrition, what you're taking into your body, and that will support you to allow to yourself to be in command of your new motherhood, your new parenthood,
Right.
that your mind is with you to partner with you to be the best parent that you possibly can, and not the other way around, right? Our goal is so that all our energies, our mental health, our spiritual health is working with us and not against us. And so it's basically building that foundation. Whew, Shonda.
What else? Any other emotional, mental, spiritual changes that you hear a lot about that women don't anticipate?
Oh, okay. So okay, let's have this conversation. I haven't shared this. I think I've only ever shared this once before, and it was with a psychiatrist as well. So
We bring
somebody,
this out in people.
right? So I told her, and this was the first time I ever said it in a public forum, and I said, I have done a substantial amount of personal development, spiritual growth, deepening my entire being before I had a child, before we chose to start this journey. And both me and my husband had a desire to be better than what we currently are. And so, we're at probably 7 years into this practice, this really intentional practices that we've taken on. And we have conceived. We did it. Baby is on the way and it's growing inside of me. At around the 6-month mark, I started getting these very invasive thoughts. And they were thoughts around things I had been doing all the time. And one that I can very clearly remember is make sure that you don't fall down the stairs and kill the baby.
Right.
And or hurt yourself. And I was like, oh, that was weird. And who thought of that? And then it kept happening. And then 2 weeks into these very invasive thoughts, like this was around winter time because our baby was born in April. So looking at January, February, it's ice outside. Oh, you're going to slip and fall and you're going to kill this baby. All these thoughts started coming. And this is what she then told me, she's like, oh, that's prenatal depression. I was like, or signs of it. And I was like, oh, that's a thing. I didn't know. What I actually started doing was after this 2-week mark, I looked at it. I examined the thoughts that were going through my head because I had enough of the tools within me to know that my thoughts are not me and I am my thoughts. And so I looked at these thoughts as who is coming up with these thoughts and where did they come from? And then one day I told my husband, I was like, you know what? I think there's this back door. And then I started calling it the backdoor theory. It's like, I think there's this back door that exists in every female that doesn't open until it knows there's a human growing.
That's so sweet.
You're in this extremely state. And so the floodgates come in of all of these, could be hormones. I don't know. I don't know the science behind it. Okay. I'm not trained to know anything about this. This is just the theories I thought of. So I was like, there's this back door and only females get it because it only triggers its unlocking system when there's a human inside of you. And so, and then I realized I can either take these thoughts as myself, as this is me, this is who I am, which is what I would put out there as the vast majority of mothers or parents will do and accept, unfortunately. as this is who I am now, which you and I both know that is for that to be incorrect.
Right.
Or I can use this and have this be my protector, have this be my partner in giving me a heads up that we need to pay more attention to our surroundings right now. If you weren't alert before, I need you to be alert right now because this is ice and I need you to watch your steps. It's like, got it. Cool. Thank you. I'm with you. And so we became partners in the rest of our pregnancy journey.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing that you were able to recognize that during it. And also I would just add as a therapist that,
Yes,
you know,
please.
it's this basically it's this hypervigilance and, you know, sort of mama bear that shows up. That's kind of like, hey, I gotta, you know, scan the surroundings. So it can work overtime and often does, as yours was, right? I mean, it's that helpful piece and how do you manage that? And of course, you know, getting help if you need extra help. But it is so empowering to recognize that thoughts are not facts and also that it does serve a purpose and I don't need to, you know, that it's quite normal. It can be quite normal, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's normal
Yeah.
and it's also not me. And so I'm going
Right.
to choose how I'm going to use this or
Right.
I'm not. The choice is mine. It's always mine. But again, I had the tools in my toolbox to be able to
Mm,
assess this. And
yeah.
that comes with having a desire to want to be better than what I am right now, to be able to be liberated from the confines of our mental games, our physical games, our energetic games, and know the rules of the game so we can play it to the best of our ability. And that's a whole other conversation for
Yes,
another.
yes, that's great. Yes, and I love that. I
Yeah,
mean, because I think that's it's really important about mental health. It's not all of I think what we're talking about overarching is this idea of taking the shame away from talking about all aspects of this. I mean, in general, of course, but
yes.
specifically around birth and motherhood, and that you know what we find is that when we start talking about it, even if it feels like nobody else can possibly have dealt with this or there's something wrong with me or it's shameful and embarrassing and it's dark and I'm going to hide it. When we bring it into the light, we see that it is often quite common and there are
Extreme.
explanations and yeah, and it's just so empowering in that way. So
Yeah. And that
we
it's normal, right?
yes,
It's
exactly.
normal to have these. And then it's now what? And
Right.
there are individuals like you, there's companies like Healing Mama
Mhm.
Co that gives you the tools and the resources to know what the now what is in the most
Yes.
empowering possible way that we could
Right.
be as the
Right.
best mothers and parents that
Which
are
is
that we deserve, our babies deserve, the whole world deserves.
That's right, definitely. So, great segue too. We need to wrap up because I'm keeping these interviews, unfortunately, to about 30 minutes or so we can get this
Okay.
great information. And thank you. You've really enlightened us, I think, with a lot of these pieces that aren't often talked about. So, tell people about Healing Mama Co. a bit and how they can find you and your postpartum bags and what else you offer.
Beautiful. Love it. Thank you so much. Okay, so if you are expecting, you come to healingmamaco.com and you go to our medically backed, ready to go labor and postpartum bags. Come these beautiful, beautiful bags, all prepackaged in packing cubes and pouches. That's right. The backpacker and me will now live in your hands and just have all the tools that we have just spent the last how many minutes talking about that you will need. I cannot emphasize this. Our toughest hurdle with talking about this is educating people with the things they didn't even know that they needed to know. There's no like we're coming out of left field, opening your perspective to something that is not talked about. So you come to Healing Mama Co, and I promise you that we will take care of you. I can't promise that we'll take away the overwhelm,
All
but we
right.
will at
That's
least
my
give you,
job.
yeah, there you go. That is Shonda's job. But we will at the very least give you a safe space to know that you are taken care of and that you will have all the products, tools, and resources at your fingertips that we have put together for you with along with all the professionals that you need to know about as you journey into childbirth, your postpartum healing, recovery, lactation, and brand new beautiful parenthood. So come to Healing Mama Go. We've got your bags, bundles, and Shonda, let me just tell you this. We also have over 150 individual products. So if you don't want our bag, just come and get the products
Mm,
from us because we
yeah.
will sell you your mama diapers because you and your newborn can match in those first few days.
And
And
what I appreciate so much about your products is that I know when I was a first time mom, I took my best friend who had been a mom a few months prior to the store with me to do my baby registry
Yes.
because I was like, oh my, and this was 22 years ago. So, I mean, I'm sure it's only gotten much more overwhelming, but I was totally overwhelmed. I was like, how in the world am I supposed to know what I need and what I don't need? And that's what I love about your bags is that it's something that can go on their registry. They can get it
Yes.
themselves. And it's like, oh, it takes so much of that mental load off of figuring that out.
Yes.
So, and I
I'm also
only, kind of promote products that I absolutely love. So
love it.
yeah, yeah.
Appreciate it. And let me just add in here, your partner will be so, so, so appreciative having, see, there's cards attached to everything. The cards were there to help
Directions.
navigate mama, but partners, we've had partners, dads come up to be like, yo, thank you so much for telling me exactly when to use this stuff.
Mm,
We're here for you. We're
yeah,
here.
yeah.
Yes,
Awesome.
everybody can navigate this as smoothly as possible. And
Okay.
we'll be with you every step of the way.
Nice.
Yay,
All
Healing
right.
Mama Girl. Thank you so much, Shonda.
It
I
was
loved our time together. And if anyone has any questions, again, come to Healing Mama Co. Follow us on Instagram. Send us a message. We respond to everything, literally everything.
yes. Thank you, Rowena. I'm sure we will be talking again soon. Thanks so much for your time.